So this almost feels like a really good follow-up to to yesterday's video. Um, we obviously know that there are a lot of worry in the Conservative Party about defections, especially from MPs. Meanwhile, of course, one thing that really wasn't mentioned too much is that there have been a lot of defections already ongoing, just not currently MPs. We've seen former MPs switch sides, but the one thing that doesn't get too much is the fact you've had these local Conservatives changing to Reform. Now, why is that the case? Well, local politics, as I keep on trying to sort of get across to you, and I keep on repeating it, it's its own individual Westminster, and there's like 600 plus almost individual Westminsters right up and down the country. And people don't realize that even though there's like this local Conservative Party, etc., it has its own internal problems and power struggles, infighting, etc. This is why I constantly laugh at well people from the Green Party when they say, "Oh, there's no infighting in our party," and I go, "Really? Explain what happened in Sheffield then." And they all go suddenly a bit quiet about that. But yeah, these, politics, it can get very messy. It can be very, very power hungry. And some of these councillors you are changing seats have been involved. If you look at a lot of the local stuff being said, it's power struggles, and they are switching to Reform because it seriously looks like they are being promised stuff. It really does like that they are being promised stuff. Most notably, probably, prime positions on the council. And this immediately followed up by what's just happened down in Surrey, because they have their very first UK Reform member, not, of course, won through an election or by-election, but no, through a defection. And I've said before, I really do not like it when someone just defects and can basically continue on in their position. I find that just really unfair, to be honest. I think if you defect, if you walk across the aisle, it should automatically trigger by election. If you are that confident that that is the way that the local people are going to vote, then okay, put it to the test. Stand in a by election. But of course, they don't. And well, we'll see what happens, of course. But this is something that needs to be. It's probably very, very worrying for Conservative HQ. The fact that there are defections happening, but they're happening at a local level. And this is so far a trickle. But at what point might this trickle become a little bit of a flood? Might they lose control? And to be honest, all of this leads back to the fact that one of the big things that is letting, Farage currently run wild is the fact that you are witnessing a collapse in the Tory party. Like, they are absolutely collapsing. If Kimmy Badenoch was actually the leader, the promised messiah that she was meant to be, this wouldn't be happening. Like, a strong leader in the Conservative Party would actually stop this and be able to see Farage off. But that's not what you've got currently in the Conservative Party. It is a mess. It is a big, big mess, and we've spoken about that, of course, at length in the past. But I do want to get on to this defection going on in Surrey. But before we do get to that, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button down below. There are links to my Patreon page, the one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, as always, there's the Pony Club down below as well, the YouTube membership. So let's crack on then into this. So, first Reform UK Surrey member on Surrey County Council, now as a 20-year Conservative, quits the party. So, So Surrey Council now is its first Reform UK councillor. Now a Tory veteran crossed the floor, claiming the party he had served for 20 years has now lost its way. And again, you'll see when he gets to discussing why he made his decision. It is all because of the mess in the Tory party, and I really am starting to suspect a large part to thank to Farage's success is just the implosion of the Tory party. Generally, that is one thing he's massively benefiting from. So the decision, of course, of Councillor Andy Lynch, ward member for Horsley West, for Salford and Sidlow, still, of course, leaves the Conservative Party at least with the single largest group, with Surrey at 41 members. However, with now 2 looming by-elections on the horizon, the potential now exists for the Tory majority to be reduced to just 1. This would be a disastrous fall from recently as 8 years ago when it commanded a majority of over 41 seats. Councillor Lynch said his decision had not been an easy one, but after much soul-searching, he has decided to leave the Conservative Party, and it was no longer his political home. He said, "I've decided that after 2 decades of trying to serve my community as a Conservative councillor, it's become very clear the party has lost its way." Again, I love it when he says this. Reform UK is a breath of fresh air. How? Honestly, how? A party that puts people before politics. It really doesn't when you look at some of the stuff that Farage has said and advocated for, and believes in common sense country first policies, such as, again, such as. Then he continued, "I've been a Tory councillor for over the past 20 years. This is, of course, no easy decision with a lot of thought and sleepless nights. I'm still, of course, a county councillor. It doesn't matter what banner I'm under. I would argue that it does. Like I say, I really do not like it when people can just cross the aisle and there's no ramifications. I think it should trigger an automatic by-election. I am here to continue to work to the best of my ability, as all councillors do. We help people, and that's what we're going to do. But things, of course, been dramatically changing. The whole political theory is now changing, and the Conservatives haven't changed or really understood people's feelings. And this is, again, after 14 years of, well, disastrous rule. You'd think maybe the Tories were politically savvy enough to start doing something else. But this all goes back to the fact that we've discussed before at length. The Tories became obsessed with that ideology. And bear in mind, it is the same for Reform. If Reform ever get in, they're just going to go down this ideology path, and they're going to be like 10 times worse because their ideology is like infinitely worse than what the Tories are going to do. Infinitely worse. He said, "I speak to people all the time and they just feel like they're being left behind, not being looked after." Again, this has been something said now for years. The average hardworking person doesn't feel like they're getting support. Reform, of course, needs to start listening. Reform at least seems to be listening to the people. Again, what's it doing to help these people? Policies. It's not really promoting anything other than talking about immigration. You speak to people and they do feel that Nigel Farage and Reform seem to be listening to the people. Again, they're not. Councillor Lynch, who runs his own flooring company, served as now a Reagan-elite borough councillor, a Reigate borough councillor, where he has chaired a licensing and regulatory committee for over 13 years. He's also the chairperson of Holy Conservatives. Then it goes through all this stuff that he made. In 2022, he made headlines after being suspended from the party over tweets described as grossly offensive, something he says is now firmly in the past. He also said to have breached the Surrey Council's code of conduct, sent a written apology to the chief executive and its chairman and its leader. At the time, he was removed from a select committee by the Conservative group and received a statement of censure from the county council. I wonder why he's jumping to Reform. He, of course, fully cooperated with the investigation and voluntarily admitted and apologised for his conduct. Responding later to the questions on the matter, Councillor Lynch said, "We all make mistakes." Things were, of course, said in maybe not the best of times. You get suspended while the investigation, of course, takes place, and there was, of course, no case to answer for, and I was brought back into the fold. If I was found to have been in the wrong, the Conservatives wouldn't have brought me back in. I've been elected now to represent people. I will help, whether they voted or not. They're still constituents. It's my job. If somebody has a problem, I'll look to help. He said he now chose to join Reform as he could see change happening in Surrey politics. He said, without a doubt, I was out helping previously with by-elections, and the consensus is that the Tories have had 14 years and really didn't change anything. Not that they didn't change anything, they just made things worse. We've spent too many years. Yeah, this is where he gets into all of this at the moment is Tory infighting. It's Tory infighting and essentially the downfall of like the Tory party. And you have to really wonder, would Reform be in this position if the Tory party wasn't like absolutely a shambles? I don't know. I don't think you really could say that, to be honest, but who knows? You know, probably a great what if question, maybe. A great what if question indeed. So we've spent, of course, far too many years bickering about who should be a leader. There was far too much infighting, and you lost your focus. You're here to, of course, represent people of Dorring and Hawley. Then, of course, Nigel Farage says, "Oh, what a great chum and guy this is." I have to say, have there been any? I don't think there has actually. No, no one's commented below, so no one from at least Surrey has commented yet on this guy defecting. Again, I really seem to think if the Tories weren't in this bad a state, maybe Reform wouldn't be in this like position. Maybe I think Farage is massively profiting from the collapse of the Tories. I think very, very much so. Very, very much so. Again, feel free to disagree with me on that down below by all means. But as always, let me know what you think. Are you from Surrey? What do you think about all this? I think, honestly, as I said, I really don't like this when this happens. I think this should trigger a by-election, regardless if it's a councillor, an MP, whatever. I think it should just trigger instant by-election. You know, because it's unfair to the people who originally voted Tory. Sure, I can disagree with the fact they voted Tory, but they voted Tory, that people in that area. And now they don't have the person of that party they elected. I think that's unfair, to be honest, but there you go. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.